take your database, your business, and then maybe a product or service or two. Some people have 10 products or services in their profile. And we take that and that creates our prompt, our algorithm that we're sending to ChatGPT. When it comes back, then we filter it through our story process. One of those items in the story process, without giving all of our secrets away, is, begin with the hero in mind. The hero of the story is your customer, not you, right? So we
Right.
want to the lead needs to be about the customer, and then it flows in that inverted pyramid style all the way down to the call to action. So just so that's how you get the results. It's the databases that we're drawing from, sending it to OpenAI, bringing it back, and delivering a beautifully crafted story.
Welcome to another episode of Over a Pint, where we talk about the fast-moving world of marketing, always told through the eyes of people that are doing it on a day-to-day basis. No theory on the show. It is all about people that are in the trenches, doing it every single day, where they're earning their keep. And this today is going to be fun because we are bringing back Pat. We're bringing back a guest that we had on over a year ago. Jim Matuga. I'm excited to have Jim on. I don't even know where to begin. I think last time when we had him on, I might have spent 10 minutes giving Jim an introduction. But real quickly, Jim is an old colleague. More importantly, he's a friend. He's out in Morgantown, West Virginia. He is the president of Inneraction Media. He's the host of Positively West Virginia, which folks, I know, don't run away from the title. This podcast is absolutely awesome. I'm a believer. I love the podcast. They talk about businesses and great stories that just motivate you. And I don't care if you live in West Virginia or if you live in the Badger State, you're going to get something out of this podcast. We'll talk more about it. He also has a new product called StoryMaker. I won't give away too much about that, but he'll talk about that. But other than that, this is a person that is all about helping businesses and helping people. He guest speaks. He's a big part of the community. I could go on and on and on because I'm a big fan. So let's get him on. Jim, welcome back to Over a Pint. It is awesome to have you on.
Kurt, thank you so much, Pat. Great to see you guys. I love you guys and what you're doing as well. And you're very kind to say all those nice things about me. But it's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you guys.
It is all true. It is all true. So you're a veteran to this program, so you kind of know the deal. We have a little spiel that we do. It's called Over a Pint for a reason. We like to promote something that's local. Often it's a brew, a local brew, but other people have promoted other things. It's been local. It could be coffee. It could be some sort of food that's kind of a local flavor to their region. So we're going to ask what you are promoting today. What do you have, Jim, that you'd like to share with us?
Well, last time I was on the show, I brought Who's Your Daddy, which was an IPA from Screech Owl Brewing in Brewston, West Virginia. But since we're talking about AI, I have a virtual beer today.
Oh,
I don't know if you could see it or not.
I can.
It's in an over a pint pint glass. Can you see that?
Nice.
The logo on there? I
can.
don't know if you can see that, but yeah. So that's what I'm having today. So thank you.
Awesome. You enjoy that virtual pint.
That's good stuff. Thank you, guys.
Mr. McGovern, what about you?
Yeah, I've got so it's not local Wisconsin, but it's a local one out of Georgia. I got some of this beer from my daughter. Tucker Brewing Company out of Georgia. This is the Tucktoberfest. So that's what I'm promoting today. Yeah, fits into that kind of Oktoberfest feel. And
I love it. Yeah,
guys, it's getting close to that time of year. So yeah, that's what I'm enjoying. Tucker Brewing Company.
Love it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's not only is it getting close, it's here. I mean, it is at least around these parts. I was out hiking last weekend. I was seeing colors out in the state forest. Oktoberfest festivals are rolling around this part of the state. So
amazing.
What I got here is oh man. I was out in the Blue Ridge Mountains this past summer. I spent some time out in Boone, North Carolina. Pretty close to you, Jim, not too far.
That's right.
This is from Appalachian Mountain Brewery. It's a crawler, so I'm not going to be cracking this right now, but this is their Hilly Haze. It brought a bunch back. Very good beer. I'll crack this maybe around, let me see, get that a little bit there. There you
Oh,
go.
that's nice.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Great brewery. I'll crack this open later on, but very tasty.
Kurt, I was impressed too. You called it Appalachian. You know, if you call it Appalachian, I'll throw an Appalachia. Have you heard that?
Yes, I have.
That's a good way to remember it.
And doesn't that all have to do with it kind of where you're sitting in the old line, Dixie, north, south? It's like Appalachian, otherwise Appalachian. Yeah, I go Appalachian. I've been kind of
yeah, that's right. That's good. That's good stuff.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's dig into this a little bit. So Jim's background is pretty impressive, but I guess if you could, Jim, briefly, before we talk about, some of the things that you're doing with your companies, just in a real simple way, in a nutshell, share with the folks who are listening who you are, what's inside your DNA, what makes the heart pound.
Sure. I have a passion for helping small business owners, entrepreneurs, and nonprofit organizations. From that perspective, that's froze up.
We're back.
You guys, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Is that on your end?
Oh,
You froze
no.
up for a second.
We froze up. Let's go. Let's do folks, we're going to do a rerun. That's okay. That's what happens. And we're going to do a rerun. We kind of let it flow. If you could, we don't know whose end it was, but we don't want anybody to miss it. Take another shot at that, Jim. Just what gets what gets your heart pounding? Who are you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, from a business perspective, I love serving people. I love and have a passion for helping and serving small business owners, particularly nonprofit organizations and entrepreneurs, people that are risk takers, that are trying to do something to better the world. I love helping them. And my company is called Inneraction Media. Inneraction Media is a marketing agency and a media company. And we help our clients tell compelling stories. And we do that through a variety of means. Video, we do I have a fantastic video team, websites, digital, traditional, and social media. So that's what we do. And we really try to take the gifts that we've been blessed with as a team. I've got 10 team members, and we take those gifts and go out and serve people and help them grow their businesses and nonprofits.
That's fantastic. And Jim, how many years has Inneraction been around?
Well, I started the company October 2011. So depending on when this episode's airing, you can figure that out. But it's been a number of years. But I really, have been doing this my entire career, 35 years, since 1988 is really when I got into advertising and marketing, and primarily in West Virginia. So
that's fantastic. So let's talk then. So Pat, Jim's got this Inneraction thing going on. So I mean, we're gonna get dizzy here in a second because he's got so many balls in the air. Share with our audience what Positively West Virginia is all about. And I just, before you do, again, I mean this sincerely, I got hooked on this podcast a while ago, and I think it's fantastic. I think it's what you are doing, and I mean this sincerely, matters not where you live. I think there's a lesson and there's some value that can be extracted from whomever. Talk to us about Positively West Virginia, because I think this is really cool.
Thank you, Kurt. Again, you're too kind, and I appreciate you listening to Positively WV. And so what Positively West Virginia is all about is telling the origin stories of small businesses here in West Virginia. And we also tap into some nonprofits occasionally too. But really how it started, my wife and I went to the West Virginia State Fair back in August of 2017, and we were just turned on by all these new little cottage shops. Like this one lady, she was extracting maple syrup from maple trees that she found on her farm, and now her biggest client was China. She was selling maple sugar to this wholesaler in China, and it was just taken back by like how incredible these stories were. Like we were just meeting all these little agriculture companies at the state fair. And on the way back to Morgantown, from Lewisburg to Morgantown is a long drive. And my wife and I were talking, and I said, kind of offhandedly, I said, there are so many business stories here in West Virginia that nobody hears about. Someone needs to do something about that. So my wife, Rebecca, she just looked at me and she said, well, you own a media company. Why don't you do something about it? and, and that was, I was like, okay, challenge accepted, And so I started I started recording with a little iPhone and, some AirPods but the very first interview I did was with Brittany Hervey with Family Roots Farm, that young lady that I met that was doing the maple syrup. She was my first episode. I told her, I was like, you're my inspiration. I would love to have you as my first guest. And so that was kind of cool. But now, since then, we publish every Thursday a 45-minute podcast, and we've not missed an episode. So hundreds of episodes later, just thousands of, people that we've gotten to meet along the way. It's been amazing. And what's cool now is that, I started as a passion project, right? And I was doing it just because I wanted to do it. And then we started attracting some recognitions from sponsors. So now we have four sponsors for the show. So it ostensibly has become one of our bigger clients. So that's kind of cool too. It wasn't the goal, but it's pretty neat, and it gives us a little bit more reach. Each episode reaches between 15 and 16,000 downloads and listeners. So that's pretty cool. So we have like it's kind of like a digital radio program now, and it's all focused on that one thing, of telling the stories of these businesses. And like you said, Kurt, every episode I get a takeaway that's just like blows me away,
Mm-hmm.
And there's always something in there, some kind of nugget that is definitely good stuff.
Yeah. Well, what I love about it is you're shedding light on some really cool things and some good things that are happening in your state.
Mm-hmm.
And I think every state, it's like every state has baggage. What I love is that you identified something and you said, you know what, I had this Pat, this reminds me a little bit of the conversation we had last week when we had was it Gene? I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
From
Gene O'Toole.
Yeah, Gene O'Toole. It was great. So we had someone on, Jim, and she was talking about her work history and how she successfully went from one category to another, having had no experience. And the takeaway that I gleaned from it, she's like, it's very easy to identify the challenges and the differences and negatives. That's the easy part. The hard part is going in there and finding the commonalities and the good. And that's what I love about your show. You'll be happy to know that Pat McGovern is now starting Positively Wisconsin, and he's now he's now. Have you ever thought about franchising this? I got to ask.
I know. I think you guys asked me that last time. I was like, I would love to. I just don't have the bandwidth. That I hate to use that word, but it's just so much to do. There's so many moving parts. We've got to figure it out. I'll love to help. Pat, if you want to do it, I'll show you. I'll give you our game plan, man. It's pretty cool because we've learned a lot of lessons along the way. Kurt, you touch on something right there, and most I don't know if you guys realize this or your listeners even do, but West Virginia, we're the butt of a lot of jokes. Everything from missing teeth to no shoes and marrying your sister and all that kind of stuff. But West Virginia, there's a lot of good people here. We have a lot of natural beauty, but the people are what makes West Virginia very special. And you hear stories like, hey, I was driving through West Virginia in the middle of the night, had a flat tire, and 4 people came over, and not only did they change my tire for me, they took me to the biscuit place, and we got a biscuit and had some coffee on the way, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
It just, you hear all those kinds of stories, and there's great people all across America, but West Virginia, there's something special here. But that being said, we rank at the bottom of all the good lists and the top of all the bad lists. We're number 1 for obesity and heart disease and cancer, and then low socioeconomic status, per capita income. I mean, the highest rate for foster kids per capita. I mean, it goes on and on. So we have all these challenges, and so you're right. That's one of the motivations that I have is to seek out the positive things and give people encouragement, equip them with some knowledge, maybe some wisdom that they could take and say, yeah, I don't have to leave West Virginia. I could have an impact here. I could start a business. I could buy a business. I could, do something entrepreneurial, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you're doing some great things, and so again, awesome to hear.
Thank you.
I want to transition a little bit into, and this is one of the key reasons we really wanted to bring you back on is, so, AI, artificial intelligence, just it's kaboom. It's a part of our industry now, the marketing world. We had a guest on a couple months back, and we talked a lot about how this is really, it's changed the game a little bit. So you obviously are dipping your toes into this a little bit. So let's talk about this a little bit, and let's talk about how marketing, technology, how the two have started to really become woven together, and how you've seen it really changing the game since it's here. This is something we didn't have available a little while ago. Talk to us about your overview on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess as background, I am not a tech guy. I'm not Inneraction Media is not a technology company. We're a marketing company that has created a technology product. And that's a differentiator in and of itself, okay? Because a lot of tech companies are trying to create AI solutions for problems that may not exist. So going, to the origin of StoryMaker, I had this idea, and it was brought on in large part because of the podcast. So Kurt, you said I have a lot going on, but all these things are intertwined, okay? And you'll see how I weave that together here in a second. But so one of the questions I ask every single guest on the podcast, and again, hundreds and hundreds of people have been on the show, I always ask, what's your 30-second pitch? Tell us what you do when you meet somebody. What do you do? And almost every person fails miserably, and that as a marketer, it breaks my heart. It's like, come on, dude, you're the founder of this company. You've been in business 12 years and you can't even articulate what you do and the people that you serve. And again, I don't say that with any disrespect, but it really does break my heart. So I fell in love with this problem that most business owners, especially small companies, right, that don't have an agency, that aren't working with a marketing company, that don't have marketing background. Most companies struggle with the words that they use to talk about their business, whether that's social media, whether that's email, whether that's creating a long form like a blog post, whether it's creating a 30-second pitch. You're at a networking event, you're going to stand up and talk about what you do. What is it, right? And so I fell in love with that problem, and so we started working on it here years ago. And I kept thinking, man, if we could take some of our processes as a marketing agency, things that we charge thousands of dollars for, and I could, automate that utilizing some kind of technology, that would be an amazing thing. And then we could take our marketing sophistication, if you will, and send that out to the masses and make it available to anybody. If you're a solopreneur, or if you're a little flower shop, or you're an independent insurance agent, or a interior designer, you need to be able to tell your story.
Right.
And so that was on my heart, and I kept thinking, man, I got to do this. Well, a couple of years ago, I met a lady at West Virginia University, and her name is Sarah Biller. She runs an organization called Vantage Ventures, which is part of the John Chambers College of Business and Economics. And I had mentioned to her on a podcast that I had this idea for a piece of software someday, that whenever the technology enables it, I would love to automate some of my processes. Never thought anything of it. Well, 2 years later, last November 2022, she sends me an email and wants to know if I would be interested in this new initiative they were going to do, where they were going to try to build 10 SaaS applications in 10 weeks through West Virginia University and the Vantage Ventures initiative. And I said, well, yeah, I'm in. So I had an interview with the guy that was leading it, and his name was Kerry Landis. And I explained to him what I wanted to do. And think about this, though. That was at the end of November. Early November 22 is when OpenAI started unleashing ChatGPT to the masses. And I was an early adopter. I was in there, and I was like, I couldn't believe how amazing it was. And I kept thinking, this could be the impetus for me to create one of my processes that I was talking about just a minute ago. And so how cool was that to get an email, like literally like 2 weeks after I discovered ChatGPT, invited me to do this SaaS application. So we started on January 9th, 2023. And every Monday for several hours, we would get together in the evening, and it was all on Zoom. So we had these coders that were from India and a bunch of people from West Virginia University. We had 5 entrepreneurs and 5 WVU students working simultaneously on our independent SaaS applications. It's called low code, no code. So I don't know if you've ever heard that terminology, but it's basically utilizing tools to create this software. Well, after the 5th week, so halfway through, my application was the first one to test. We got the test phase, and we are on this Zoom call, and the idea was to create a piece of content that was specific to Inneraction Media, my business, using Chat GPT without having to write a prompt. It's just clicking a couple of drop down menu items. Well, I did that, and it was pretty amazing because I didn't know if it was going to work or not. And there's like 25 people on this call, and we're watching the dots, click by, and after about 7 seconds, a message appeared. And I said, well, I'm going to read it. And it was like, oh my lands, that was incredible. I mean, literally was the first piece of content that I had created utilizing AI for my business using StoryMaker. And to say that I was blown away, I mean, I'm still recalling that moment. It was like, I can't believe what I just saw. And then I thought for a second, well, this was my idea, that we just brought this thing to fruition. It was a dream, and now here it is, it's happening. So fast forward, May 1st, we launched StoryMaker to the world. It was pretty cool because it was the first of its kind. Now there's other AI marketing tools out there that, I mean, I'm not claiming to create anything new, but this is the first one that was created by a marketing agency that understands and works with small businesses and nonprofit organizations every single day. And so we've created this tool from that perspective. We're not a tech company trying to sell a product. We're a marketing company that's developed a really useful tool to help small business and entrepreneurs. So May 1st, we launched. We got national publications, Yahoo Finance. It was kind of cool. I saw Yahoo Finance StoryMaker launches, and it was like at the top of the thing. So anyway, we got a ton of media play out of that, got a lot of initiative or inertia right out of the gate. That was pretty cool. And since then, we've been on a roll and just really trying to evangelize StoryMaker, trying to help nonprofits, small business entrepreneurs be able to create really great, compelling content for social media, emails, and so forth.
A couple things I want to unpack it here. First of all, you had said, you're not a technology company, you're a marketing company that happened to develop a technological product. I had a chance to kind of spend some time in there and dip my toes and play around. And the one thing I do like is that you're leading with brand. You're not deviating from your core, and it's telling that brand story. Yeah. My question for you is this: is I too, and Pat, I welcome you to jump in. I'm learning as I go about this. This is, it's like, it is amazing at some of the stuff it was kicking out. I was like, well, that's kind of cool. I was like, interesting. You were saying, Jim, this is primarily it's the small businesses, nonprofits. As you've been a part of building this for a while, and now you've seen it out in the world now since late spring. I mean, in your opinion, is there it's geared towards small businesses, but where do you see the line though between like, is it also for, what if you're not a small business? What if you're not a nonprofit? How does that impact an advertising agency? How does that impact,
right.
This is what we do. Like, how does that impact, maybe a Marcom who works at a larger company? Talk about how you see this technology playing on both sides of the fence. Is there a limit? Is it?
It's great. On that? Well, you mentioned that I speak a lot to groups and stuff. And yesterday I was at a conference for West Virginia University Extension. So it's a extension offices in all 55 counties of West Virginia, and had a statewide conference. And one of the breakout sessions was on AI, and I had two other panelists with me. One was a law professor with a PhD in patent and copyright law. The other was a computer science PhD with a specialty in AI. So these guys were very, very knowledgeable. And so here I am talking about practical use. They were talking like esoteric, very cerebral concepts on AI. And then here I am bringing it down to like the common person. And it was really cool because I never really thought about it for higher education, but I was asked to be on this panel. I said, sure, I would do it. And, but I had, half a dozen people. There was like 75 people in this room, and it was kind of cool crowd. Had lots of questions, but they had expressed interest in getting wondering if they could get the nonprofit rate, because we offer a nonprofit rate, which I'm going to offer to everybody, all of your listeners, if anybody wants to try it out. But anyway, the point is I never really thought it would be a use for that, but they were like, oh my gosh, because I was talking about one particular aspect that we're in beta test right now. It's called email responder. And I asked a question. I said, how many of you, get an email that you have to respond to, but it's going to take you 20 minutes to half an hour to write a response to that thing? Every hand went up, they're like, oh, you could hear the groans. I said, well, email responder in StoryMaker will take your brand concepts, your brand, Kurt, just like you were talking, all the things that you believe in, all your language, all you could copy the email, put it into StoryMaker, give it a couple of suggestions, like answer this in an affirmative tone, or I don't want to do this, or whatever. Okay, you can play around with it, hit make my story, and literally 15 seconds later, you're going to have a response that you could actually cut and paste and send that back. Instead of spending 20 minutes, you could spend 20 seconds and create an email, and it's in your brand voice. And so that when I explain that, and I'm using that tool every day myself as a business owner. Yeah. And so we've been beta testing this. We still have some kinks to work out, but it's a phenomenal use. Just to give you an example, like you were talking, small business, large business, who's a for. One of the conversations I had just recently was with a woman by the name of Rania Sakur. She is the CEO of a company called MailChimp. You guys probably know MailChimp. Your listeners probably know MailChimp.
Oh yeah.
But I had a one-to-one with Rania Sakur, and it was a demo. And I want to be careful. I don't want to say too much, but her exact words to me were, Jim, this was about halfway through, like 15, 20 minutes into my presentation. She said, Jim, I want to stop you for a second. She said, I'm absolutely blown away by StoryMaker. She said, we have been in beta now with MailChimp's AI email program for a couple of months now. She says, what I just saw from StoryMaker blows our product away. How can we work together? I'm like, buy StoryMaker from me, 10 million. I'm kind of joking, but it was really fascinating to hear that kind of story. She said, millions of dollars and countless people on this project, and what I just saw you guys created in a matter of months, and I'm blown away by it. Well, again, we're not a tech company trying to create a tech solution for somebody. We're marketers. We're in the trenches just like you guys are, right? Pat, Kurt, you guys are in the trenches every day. We know things, right? We're not sitting up in some, coding, not to say that those are bad things, but I feel like we've got a differentiation here in our solution. I hope
Jim,
that
you sure
helps
do.
answer.
Yeah, Jim, you sure do have a differentiation. I was playing with it before we got on the show. For everybody who's listening to this, I would definitely recommend checking this out. I found the interface very, very easy to use and very interesting. ChatGPT is amazing. There's no question about it. This just helps you along a little bit more, and you'll see there's just points of guidance, like what are you looking for more specifically? So it's very much catered to what you're talking about, which I definitely appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, you guys
Jim,
are seasoned marketers. You guys know what's going on. A lot of small businesses, they don't really know, right? They don't know what to do, how to
Yeah.
write those sentences and craft those words. And even from a social media perspective, if you write a social media post with StoryMaker, it automatically embeds hashtags and emojis that are trending. So if you're wanting to put something on X
awesome.
or Instagram or even LinkedIn, it'll actually go out and pull those hashtags that are trending for your content.
Jim, so my question for you is now that this has been out since May, what have you been seeing with StoryMaker in terms of what is being used a lot of? What are people like really, really gravitating toward, or maybe what are they shying away from? And maybe conversely too, what are some of the challenges that you have? Just it took about 13 years for sliced bread to catch on, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So this is a great tool, but people just have the way they are, the tools they have and what they're comfortable with.
Absolutely. That's a great question because there are opportunities. We have metrics on everything, but there are also challenges. And so from the opportunity standpoint and how people are using the tool, they're using it just as it was intended. Like every single aspect, if you get into the dashboard, you'll notice we have things such as a 30-second pitch, a social
Yep.
media post, a
Yep.
blog post, right? In sales email, and so on. So people are using all of those pre-selected kind of content pieces. We also have one that says create a custom, and that gets used a lot. So what we're doing is trying to analyze case by case, like what are people asking it to do? Just to give you an example, I have one of our heavy users is an independent AFLAC agent, and there are like 10,000 of them across America, right? And he puts out a lot of content on social media, primarily LinkedIn. Every day he's posting something. And what was interesting is he also has he owns investment properties like rental properties. So he uses StoryMaker because once you buy one license, you have unlimited amounts of companies you can run through one license, unlimited products and services in the database. Well, he started writing content for his rental properties, and now it was funny because he sent me a message and said, "Hey, I'm trying to run for my HOA of this resort that I own some property in, and I'm trying to get StoryMaker to write my bio." I'm like, I sent him a message back. I said, that's not the intended use for StoryMaker. That is absolutely not the intended use. I said, but let's give it a try. Try this. And I gave him a couple of prompts to write in the custom story box. He did it, and he wrote me back, and he's like, incredible. He goes, I can't believe what that just did in a few seconds.
Wow.
And so he was overwhelmed with, I was like, I was hesitant to tell him how to do it because, that wasn't but it's really amazing. Kurt, like you said, you start messing around with a little bit with Chat GPT and you understand the potential, but then with StoryMaker, it takes all the guesswork out of it. You don't ever have to type a prompt, right? That's the biggest challenge. Like this PhD professor that I was talking with yesterday, he said the biggest challenge is you got to know what to write in the prompt, right? The
Right.
prompt that you're saying.
Yep.
Well, we take all the guesswork out of that, and that's what StoryMaker does. I think about, the heart and soul of StoryMaker is the business profile. Pat and I were talking right before we started about that because that basically is the database that everything is being drawn from, right? So we take your database, your business, and then maybe a product or service or two. Some people have 10 products or services in their profile. And we take that and that creates our prompt, our algorithm that we're sending to Chat GPT. When it comes back, then we filter it through our story process. One of those items in the story process, without giving all of our secrets away, is, begin with the hero in mind. The hero of the story is your customer, not you, right? So we
Right.
want to the lead needs to be about the customer. And then it flows in that inverted pyramid style all the way down to the call to action. So so that's how you get the results. It's the databases that we're drawing from, sending it to OpenAI, bringing it back, and delivering a beautifully crafted story.
It's yeah, it is amazing what it was kicking out, and you hit it on the head. It's this offering. It's you have to put something into it. It's not, you can't be totally lazy and not get out of bed. It's not
That's
going to
right.
make
That's right.
it's not going to make your bed for you. It's not going to fix your breakfast. You hit it on the head. You got to put the prompts in.
Yeah.
What I like about it is also not only does it kick out the different like channels for which your story is going to come to life, whether that's a blog post, a social media post, a sales email. It really doesn't matter. I like that you're starting with the brand.
Yes.
And I do think that's where a lot of people still get it wrong. And I know you really lean heavy into brand, and it's like we see that all the time with potential customers. They want to skip that part of the process. It's like, unless you really understand your brand and your face and your voice and that tone, everything that you kick out isn't going to be authentic.
That's right.
Here's my question, and it sounds like, and this might be naive. I found what was fascinating was, and I was clicking around because like I know what our tone and voice is. So I was like, let's see what it is. But then I changed it up. I'm like, well, let's be this instead. How do you find that some people just don't know when they come in? Like in other words, like I don't know what my tone or voice is, or is
Yeah.
that something where you all
No,
kind of it can help them a little bit because some people just don't know what
absolutely.
they don't know.
Yeah, so just going through the onboarding process, we have an onboarding wizard when somebody gets a subscription, and we ask them some baseline questions to get them started. Okay, that's great. Then you can go in and update it, edit it infinitely. Okay, but the reason we put tone of voice on there as an option is a drop down menu like positive, enthusiastic, or professional and courteous, or sincere or serious, right? We have all these and then you can customize your tone of voice. Like I have a home inspector that types in, uh, please respond in a tone of Snoop Dogg. I see what he's putting in there. I'm like, why would you do that? Okay, but shizzle, come on, man.
Yeah.
But you can do a custom voice. But the tone of voice is important because we want people to be able to respond in different ways, right? Maybe if even for instance on the email, right? Maybe you don't want to be formal. Maybe you want to be casual and humorous. It'll create that content in that tone of voice, and that's part of our algorithm. It's not just something that Chat GPT does. You have to actually program that as part of the code. So we think, and those are constantly changing. We're constantly experimenting with those tones of voice because I think it is important. We don't want to you don't want to be boring, right? As a brand,
Right.
and you may be speaking to one audience, and then next day you're talking to a different audience. So we wanted
Right.
to have that functionality, and so I'm glad it occurred and that you tried that. And one of the things I encourage, especially these like mom and pop shops or entrepreneurs or solopreneurs, I say get in there and experiment, have some fun with this. This is a tool for you to create something with. I also want to hit on what you had mentioned, Kurt, about putting the data in, getting it right, and Pat, this kind of may help you understand a little bit more too. I liken it to QuickBooks. I've been a QuickBooks customer for 13 years, and QuickBooks is an amazing piece of software because StoryMaker is a SaaS application.
Right.
QuickBooks is a SaaS application. So QuickBooks is phenomenal. It runs payroll like perfectly, right? But it will not run payroll unless you put in the bank routing numbers, the hourly wage, the name and the address of the employee, how many hours they work. You have to put data in, right?
Yep.
Same thing with StoryMaker. You have to create a basis for it. And that's the beauty of what we're doing is because if you've used Chat GPT, you go in there and it's remembering, it's learning, machine learning. Well, StoryMaker does that too, but you don't have to remember everything. It's all archived. Every time you create a piece of content, there is a library that is built, and it's just added into your library. You can custom name the stories. You can give it, remarks and comments. And it also shows you the prompt that you sent through the click down menu or drop down menus. So it's really a fascinating tool that's so simple and so easy to use. Pat, you said that the user interface, and we designed that UI to be elegant and easy to use, but it's also very powerful in that as well.
Hey, Jim, if I could, I'd like to pivot a little bit because
Yes,
this is a really interesting product. It's at the right time. You mentioned that it went live in May.
May 1st.
Yep. And then, since and then you got a lot of kind of initial exposure. You're on Yahoo. Jim, if you could, would you mind breaking down just the marketing that went behind this? Like, okay, you knew it was going to be launching, and where do you see this going from just, okay, I got to market this product now, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's funny. You guys know the old adage of the cobbler's kids need new shoes, right? And so yeah, I mean, I am going to admit something here that I'm embarrassed about, but I don't have a marketing plan for StoryMaker. All right, there it's out. Okay, so it's been several months, and it has been a flurry of activity. I mean, like I said, I mentioned a couple of the people that I've talked with. I have a business coach, and we meet twice a month. And once a month, I do my one-to-one with him, and then we have a group coaching call in person. But he asked me just a couple of days ago. He said, "Jim, he goes, you're talking about like you're losing momentum on StoryMaker, like you're feeling like the things aren't going as fast as you want them to. He said, what's your plan? I mean, that's a great quote. A great coach doesn't give you advice; they just ask questions, right? And when he asked me that, I was like, kind of like you just asking, Pat. My heart sunk a little bit, you know. So that's what I'm working on right now. The actual marketing plan. We did everything. We had digital ads running. We had press releases. We were social media, and we're still doing a lot of that stuff. Every time that somebody asks me to come and speak about StoryMaker or AI, I've accepted those offers, right? I don't know if it's all great to do that, kind of stuff, but I do believe that that is the right thing that I should be doing. But right now, we're in the process of really formalizing our marketing plan, creating a marketing budget, and so forth. We have right now we have right around 100 subscribers to StoryMaker, which doesn't sound like a lot until I started talking to some real experts in the industry. And they were like 100 since May. That is amazing. These are people that are paying for your service coming in and so forth. And I was disheartened because I thought, man, this thing will blow up. We'll have 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. It doesn't work that way, especially in this space, especially being something so new. I will tell you this, Pat, to your question, the most effective way to market this right now is to show people, do a demo. You walk them through 2 or 3 minutes. They're like, okay, how do I sign up? So that's my challenge. Is like every subscriber that we're getting is based on me talking to somebody or presenting to a group, and I get 3 or 4 people signed up. But that's not the way to build the brand. So the idea I mentioned, the conversation I had with MailChimp, if somebody like that wanted to partner and say, here,
Sure.
let's do this. We'll bring AI immediately and bring StoryMaker to an email company or a marketing automation company. I tried to get in I'm a HubSpot agency. We tried to have conversations with HubSpot. They weren't interested, but that MailChimp, those kinds of partnerships would just absolutely be a game changer for not only myself and my team, not only the company we partner with, but the masses that I talked about, those small business entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
That I want to help as many people as possible with this technology.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the marketing plan, that is like the vision long term.
I got something for you, Jim. Let's talk after
Yeah.
the pod.
Okay. Yeah, this is good. So again, I don't mean to be first of all, I don't mean to be a salesperson for StoryMaker. This is my baby. This is, and I just want to help people. It's not about revenue. It's not about sales. It's about really getting this technology in the hands of people that can use it. And, I just love that. I spoke to a WVU entrepreneurship class a couple weeks ago, and I'm actually speaking at one tomorrow. And a young man came up to me. He's like, "Hey, I'm a sophomore, and I started a company, but I don't know what to say about it. I'm really passionate about it, but I don't." So I gifted him a subscription, and it's amazing. Like he's texting me, calling me, "Hey, this is amazing. How do I do this? How do I do that?" And so I'm like coaching this kid. He's a college student, because
Right.
I want to see him. I want to see him win. I mean, I'm not charging him anything, but I just want to see him be successful. And I love that. If people you guys know it. If you have somebody who's passionate and on fire, you want to help them.
Sure.
And so that's what I'm looking for.
I'm going to feed that. One of my final questions I have is from a customer perspective, Jim. Our business, this as well as anyone, and Pat, it's all about measurability. It's all about results. So from the customer's perspective, it's like, how do you measure the success? Is it based on time? It's like, hey, I saved time. That's the success. Is it based on the fact that I was able to, define the brand and lead with brand? Is that success? Is it based on maybe a side by side? I think about in our world, how often are we testing ads?
Yeah.
It's like, there's test markets. We're going to put an ad here, an ad here. They're different. Let's see what resonates. Has any of that been done where it's like there's been some side by sides where this is an opportunity to kind of measure what pushes the needle a little bit with I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, that's a great question. Right now, we have metrics and analytics on usage and time spent, and number of days that people are using StoryMaker as a subscriber. But
Mhm.
I'm not able to capture any analytics on their end, except for anecdotal. So I'll share a story with you. I have an Italian restaurant owner. It's a really, I think, a casual Italian. This guy's on fire. He's Italian. He's got this persona, and he bought a subscription to StoryMaker, and he was giving me a lot of really positive feedback through emails and so forth. But just the other day, he was having a launch of a new Italian bread that they were having imported from out of state, and this is like a very famous bread. It's called Mancini's bread, and he wrote a press release because one of the functions of StoryMaker is you could write a
Yep.
media release, and it creates it in
Yep.
AP style, by the way, right? I
Yep.
mean, you can copy it and send it to a media company, and they'll run it because I've done it. But anyway, he wrote a media release announcing that the fact that they were going to be carrying this bread. He took a screenshot of his Facebook ad measurements and sent it to me and said, Jim, this is unbelievable. He said, it literally took me 1 minute to write this media release. I copied it, pasted it into my Facebook page. And I mean, it was like he had like thousands and thousands of engagements in 24 hours. And he said,
Wow.
that was all written by StoryMaker. He goes, it would have taken me days to write this. And I did it in a few minutes. And
That's awesome.
to me, when I hear that, I'm like, let's keep going.
Yeah.
We got to get this in the hands of people, because that's what we're doing essentially is helping them build their business by not only creating great content that's relevant, right, about their business, but also saving them time and saving them money.
Totally.
Yeah.
If I don't know if that helps, Kurt, but
Yeah.
those are the kind of anecdotal evidence that I see
Oh.
and I'm hearing every day that I'm just like so fired up about.
No, it absolutely does answer the question. And really, I think it just prompted, when I asked the question, it prompted me to think about other ways to use it. Cause I keep thinking about in our world how sometimes we're testing, side by side. Let's do an ad like
Yeah.
here, ad there. You could get somewhat sophisticated and do some testing if you wanted.
Absolutely. Yep.
As we wrap up, I guess the one word I kind of wrote down was help. I circled the word. I think I wrote it in my notes. As we have conversations with guests, I'm always scribbling. And Pat does the same thing. And help is the word that I just kind of circled. And I think it's a good way to transition towards the end. It's like, that's a big part of your DNA. And I guess, as we wrap up, Jim, if you could maybe share with us, what's next for Jim, what's next for whatever. I mean, this is really, I think, the opportunity in the podcast for you to share with our listeners what it is you want to share, information you want them to grasp. This is your time to shine. It's all about you right now, Jim. So go ahead.
Yeah. Well, first of all, again, thanks, guys. Pat, it's great to see you. Kurt, you're my friend too, and I love you. And anytime you want to come to West Virginia and do some backpacking here at Dolly Sods, I'd love to take you up there, man. It's a beautiful place. Yeah, beautiful place. But yeah, help is a great word. I think about the word serve. I may have used that word here today, but I love to serve people, and whatever that capacity is. I feel like I've been blessed with some talents, and I believe that we're not supposed to bury our talents. We're supposed to, quantify them, multiply them, right? And I feel like I think that's something that I try to do. As far as business, StoryMaker is at the forefront of what we're trying to do. Interaction media and the clients we serve is our core business, but right alongside that is now StoryMaker. It's an opportunity for us to really scale the business and help more people, right? That's the whole idea. From a personal standpoint, my wife and I are just blessed. We have another grandbaby coming along the way in February, so we're looking forward to that. And we're really into the foster initiative. I don't know if I talked about that with you guys before, but our foster problem here in West Virginia, exacerbated by the opioid drug epidemic that we have, the highest per capita in the country, and then also the highest per capita of children in the foster system. So my wife and I have been on that journey for a couple of years, and that's something that's really we're both passionate about.
Well, you're a good person, Jim, and we applaud everything that you're doing. You're doing some great things. You continue to impress me. And there's a reason I've stayed in contact with you, because I like surrounding myself with good people.
Yeah,
who make
man.
me, you know, and you,
Likewise.
so
I'm honored.
yeah. So on that, and Pat, what doesn't he do? I mean, it's just,
I know.
it's
I know.
anyway, but
I
somehow
know.
he makes it happen. So that is another episode of Over a Pint. This was with Jim Matuga. We cannot thank Jim enough. Thank you again, Jim, for your time,
Thanks, guys.
for your wisdom. Everything was awesome. Until next time, cheers, everyone.
Cheers.